for the entire breakout session. So I want to practice with you guys to make sure you're paying attention and you follow instructions really well. So I'm gonna say, get it. You say, got it. And then I'll say, that's good. Okay? So throughout the presentation, I'm gonna make sure you guys stay awake. So we're gonna do a dry run really quickly. Get it?
Got it.
Good, that's really good. So my name is Nicole Morton. I'm the chief for the Acquisition and Projects Management Division. He told me to hit this button. Okay, there we go. For the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity at the Department of Energy. You guys did speak with, if you guys were at the session earlier, you saw Shalea Morissette. She is a workforce development chief in my office. We also have a minority and institution person. We also have a division for equity and justice. We also have a DEIA division in the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity. And my office processes everything for all of those offices. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do, how we do it, and what you need to do to get involved. So you heard about all the things we have. Now, how do you actually make it happen? And what do you don't see on the other side of the Department of Energy all the time? So they talked about the billions of dollars for the Inflation Law, Inflation Reduction Act that President Biden. So you talk about all these dollars, how do you get to it? Is what I'm going to talk to you about, and what's important. Because a lot of times individuals talk to you and share with industry about, oh, we got billions of dollars, but then they leave you hanging. You don't know how to really get to those dollars. Shalea mentioned that there's a process and talked about paperwork. There is. But I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about bridging the gap and how you break those barriers and you become involved with those, with the contract, with the financial assistance. Financial assistance is grants and cooperative agreements that we're going to go into a little bit. I'm going to go really fast, so if you guys want copies of slides, I'm going to make sure Andrew can get those copies of slides to you. I'll try definitely to get you some questions answered at the end. Shalea mentioned something earlier. She said, build partnerships and relationships. I was cringing on the side because I'm an acquisition chief. I'm a limited warranty contracting officer for over 15 years. So we tell people the totally opposite. It's more than a relationship. So two, both works together. But she did a very good point. When you have a name to match, a lot of times, you may email me and I may say, oh, I can't tell you anything, but I know who can share that information with you in my office, and I'll put you in contact with the right individuals. So who is a contracting officer? Anybody here know what a contracting officer is? This is crazy. This is good. Get it?
Got it.
Oh, good. This is good. So a contracting officer is that only person in every federal agency. I don't care who tells you, who you speak to, how many speakers you meet. This is the only person that can obligate any federal agency dollars. I don't care if it's $1 billion. I did $100 billion last year. We are the only persons that sign those contracts. Not anybody you speak to. So everybody want to know, oh, I want to get to know a contracting officer. But we're just going to tell you how to get to the information. But we're the people that binds the government, contracting officers. So remember that if you meet someone at an agency and they tell you the contracting officer, get the business card. Those are the only people that sign in those contracts. Contracting officer representative for CORE, COR. You hear people talk about a COR. Those are the technical individuals on the ground that work with you. Those are people that, like Shalea's group that spoke this morning, her people are technical project officers who are out there in the field telling you about what we have to offer. They give you the technical expertise of what it means when she talked about the electrical cars, the solar panel. Those are the technical people. We are the contracting officers or the individuals who are going to buy in the government. We're the person that you're submitting your application, your proposals, in quotes, RFP, RFQs. We're the individuals that are receiving those, and we're the ones that are having a team put together to evaluate your application and making the selection process. So, preparing a solicitation. Have any of you ever prepared a solicitation before? Oh, this is good. It's a lot of information, right? So I'm not going to go over this slide, but I wanted to show you slides so I can remember to tell you about the key things that you need to understand when there's a solicitation on the street from any federal agency. Whatever is in that request for solicitation, whatever's in that request for quote, right, for you to provide to the government, whatever's in the RFP, request for proposal, answer it. If you leave one thing off and you think it's minimal, you get thrown out, and you don't know it because we go through a compliance check, okay? You're thinking we're actually evaluating your contracts, we're not. Because if we ask you for your company's name and title or narrative about the capabilities, what you're doing, you have just violated the compliance check. So why should I waste my time or my team's time to evaluate your process when I know you're not gonna go any further because the compliance checks wasn't there? So I want to give you a hint to make sure you do that, right? Answer everything. And if there's a question that you need to ask, there's always a question and answer segment. And there should be. If someone released something from their office and it does not have a question and answer segment, you ask your question, hey, do we have time to ask questions? Right? Ask them, and we'll give you that period of time to do that. But if you don't and you fail to do it, then you're really wasting your time, and we want to kind of be honest with you about that. An RFI, that's a request for information. You probably heard about that, and you've seen it from federal agencies. Read it. You guys are smarter than us, right? We know that industry knows, done the market research, have the capabilities, have been in the field for a very long time. We really want to hear from you. I promise you it's not a I got you act. If there's an RFI coming out from the Department of Energy, I'm a part of it. I want to hear from you. I really want to know what you think. And you tell me based on that RFI, I'm requesting information. You're going to help me build my solicitation. So think about it. You think, that's not a contract. That's not a request for proposal. That's not a request for quote. I'm not going to send anything back. But who's better to tell the story than you? Get it? Good. Because if you don't tell your story, when I'm building the solicitation, if you don't tell me all the things I need to know about task and evaluating criteria and some of the things that I should be thinking about, because this is our need, how am I going to know to put it in a write-up to say, provide this to my agency? But if you're a part of it and you tell me, you're already ahead of the game because you're sharing that information with me. So you hear about, I'm not going to talk about this slide, but a lot, but I just want to tell you, simplified acquisition. So sometimes you hear about these billion-dollar acquisitions, right? Millions of dollars. Don't always go for the big fish. When you're starting out, sometimes you got to go for the small stuff, that $250,000 or less, because that's how you're going to build your capabilities. That's how you're going to build your past performance. That's how when you become subs, the subs kind of throw you a couple of $1,000. Take it. That's huge. That's an opportunity for you to tell the world what your company does and what you can do. And then you get to shine, because a little bit goes a long way. I tell people that all the time. Don't always go for the bigger things. I mean, it's great, but I can tell you there's a lot of agency. If you're just starting out, there's a lot of people that's been in it for a very, very, very long time, right? And we're looking at the innate ability for you to be able to provide your information from a small level. And you're bringing something to the table that maybe those larger industries or bigger industries have not shared with us yet, right? Because it's new mind, innovation. Things are changing, evolving every day. So we want to hear from you. So we want you to pay attention to the small things too. Don't just always go for those larger things. So let's keep that in mind. Don't think it's a waste of your time. Matter of fact, it's a great time for you to get involved at that level. This slide, I'm going to share with you a little bit. When you get it on your own, you can kind of look at it and see the different levels of threshold. It doesn't change for any federal agency. It's the same, whether it's Department of Energy, EPA, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, everything is the same across the board, okay? So the requirement doesn't change as far as when it comes to compliance and the threshold of the different levels and this is simplified, but I want to share that with you because a lot of times businesses overlook those little things, and I'm telling you, do not do that. That's a great way to get involved. What are the advantages when you talk about some of those small businesses? It's quick, it's fast. We cut this in like one day, right? We have people that are coming for translation service. Do you know I am crying, literally begging for translation services? I'm paying people at a whopping $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 overnight just to travel with my team for one day, and who can speak fluent Spanish, French, etc. Those are actual contracts in our office. We're looking for those capabilities, right? And it's happening, like right now we're doing a road show in Houston. Chalet is headed down to Houston. I was in Houston a week and a half ago. When we get to Corpus Christi, in Houston, Texas, We have no one. We have this huge Spanish population, and no one can help them translate what we're saying. I just procured, like, this lady, she couldn't be amazed. She called me, I was like, hey, I need 400 booklets and pamphlets, and I need people to pass these flyers out. She put back a quote to me, and overnight, her company, and I promise you, I probably didn't take that much, but I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, paid her company $100,000 to do that. That's small, but it's huge, because now guess what? 5 other organizations within ED have said, Nicole, how do I get more translation service?
Nicole, did you say we should ask questions at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, but hold your questions, I'll get to it.
Okay.
And I'll go really.
I'm gonna write it down.
No, yeah, please write it down, and then we'll go really fast. So those are the things we're looking to do, okay? Funding opportunities. Anyone heard about funding opportunity before? This is financial assistance, grants, and cooperative agreements. This is the new day and age. This is what everybody's doing. This is how you get to the dollars. I'm about to show you the process and how do you apply and what funding opportunities look like. You're going to probably ask Andrew for these slides. He'll tell you how to get them. I'm going to go through them really fast. So ask me, you see something, ask me a question, because you know what? I want to get to what you want to ask, the nitty-gritty, the things that you have on your mind that you came to this session for. And I want to cover things that I think you need to know, right? And then you can ask me questions about that later. So what is a FOA, right? FOA is a funding opportunity. Sometimes it's competitive, and it could be non-competitive. Those are sole source. But the competitive process, I'm going to lay it out to you in just a bit. A lot of times, I just told you about a sole source. I called a translation company because I had capabilities of company with a NIAX code. They identify a number that tells me that they could do translation services. I just picked a company. I didn't have a whole lot of time because we had to get someone down to Houston quickly, right? So I picked a company. Thank goodness I had their capability statements. So when you're looking at these federal agencies and these entities, they have a whole department. Now they say, oh, we don't want unsolicited proposal. Find a small business office or find an office at any agency and send them your capability statement. Make no mistake about it, that's what we go to when we're looking to make these one-off sole source awards, when we need it readily available. Do you really think about it? Do I have time to call all of you or to put a competition on the street if I have something coming up next week as an emergency? I don't. So I go to a portal and I look at individuals that have the capability. I don't care how close it is. As a matter of fact, the young lady that I procured, she was going to Houston, she was in New Jersey. So she flew her company down to Houston, Texas, and provided those services for me. And because she did that, and they're back in Houston 2 weeks later, guess what? I'm going to that same company, right? So that's the exciting part of what we do. Let's get to the process of the FOA. So we talked about a little bit earlier, RFIs. We're gonna tell you, we're gonna ask, hey, we're requesting for information about a particular thing. It's real, send me that information back. And then if I don't get anything, sometimes I say, a notice of intent, maybe I'll get one. What's your name?
Latte.
Maybe I say Latte. She's the only one that responded to my RFI. That notice of intent says, I'm gonna go out in a month or 2 weeks and say, I intend to award this young lady this award based on what she provided in her RFI. And so what happens is, because that goes out to everyone, you're gonna see, oh, wait a minute, what about me? I can do that, but you didn't reply to the RFI, right? Get it?
So question, do you cut it off?
Good.
Or do you open it up for others to join and piggyback off of us?
It depends. It depends, because the notice of intent is gonna tell you, I've already made a decision based on the capability. And so typically I don't, and I said, even if you respond to this notice now at this point, doesn't guarantee an award. So that would depend based on what you come back with, but most of the time we've already looked at this RFI, sent it to my technical team, and it probably works for us. The only time I would open it back up is if when she applied, I really wanted more of the capabilities and more within the task that I asked about, and she really wasn't providing that information for me. But most of the time, they do. So after that, the funding opportunity is released, right? So you missed that opportunity. So applications are received. If it's at a competitive level and no one's responded to RFI, I release the FOA. And then behind the scenes, while the FOA is being released, I already have technical experts that's ready to accept it. I mean, I have a whole team, 15 to 20 people that are experts that are gonna be looking at it, and then they're gonna brief me and my team on the findings based on the application. So I stress to you that it's more than important to follow the instructions over FOA. If you don't remember anything else that I say, if you receive an RFP, an RFQ, or even an RFI, answer line by line. Hire someone. Shalea said it earlier. If you can't read, hire somebody to read it for you. Okay? It's true. That's the only way you're going to be able to play. Get it? That's good. That's good. So how do you register, right? I want you to look at this screen. So if you wait to apply for this, these 44 days turn into 94, then 104, because they're backed up. If you want to, right now, make sure that you're in SAMS and grants.gov today. Check it, double check it. Make sure your company is registered. It's taking them 44 days because it's backed up. No time like the present. If I put something out tomorrow in a month, you lose. You know why? Because it's going to take you at least 44 days. Right? So if you want to play game, make sure you're registered, sam.gov. I'm going to give you the website in just a bit too. I got some good stuff for you so you can take with you. Don't tell anybody. This is a lot of cheat sheet that's going on today. You will never get a one-on-one meeting with me giving you this information. You will never get a one-on-one meeting with any other contracting officers giving you this information. All right? I just want to be honest with you. They'll tell you, but you can send me emails all day long. If you ask me about something that I have on the street, by law, I cannot discuss it with you. But I will get you to the right persons. There's a long list of people waiting to have one-on-ones with me, but a group, you get everything. Because I'm telling everybody the same thing at the same time. So 44 days, start now to make sure you're registered. Even if you're already registered, don't sit back and say I'm registered. Guess what? Someone in your company may have left your organization or your company no longer with you. And they could have been the point of contact. Right? Check it, look at it, make sure it's updated. I did have a company, begged me. I think the gentleman said, could we pray together? I said, no. We're not praying about this because I was going to give him the award, but I couldn't find him in the system. Right? Because the registration, because someone left his company that was the POC to get into sam.gov and update the information, no longer they don't have the password. I promise you I'm not lying. He did ask me could I pray in the meeting, and I said no. Went home and thought, hey, maybe I should have prayed with him, but we can't do that. So when I talk about sam.gov and updating, everyone's probably heard about a DUNS number. That's changed. It's now called the what number? Who said that? Girl, you got it. See, she's listening. She's been paying attention. It's so important. People are going to ask you, what's your UEIU number, right? Because it used to be DUNS all the time. So it's been changed. So make sure you're updated with that information. Make sure you know what's going on. Take a copy of that. I'm going to go to the next slide. Remember, I told you I'll give you those websites. Don't guess it. It's www.sams.gov. Make sure, process, provide valid information, double check. Don't be a point of failure in your office. Don't do it by yourself and think you know everything. You know, I used to have a company of my own, an IT company. I dissolved it many, many years ago when I became a federal employee because it had a huge conflict of interest. But I can tell you, the best part of leadership as a company president, owner, CEO, and employee is delegation. Delegate someone to look over what you're providing and what you're inputting. So many people lose a lot of work and a lot of help that the federal government needs because of transposing numbers or not providing the right information. So make sure you double check and don't think you have it all together. Double check that thing maybe once a month. Have someone look at it, okay, in your office. This is kind of like the same thing, talking about the high demand of new companies that's coming along. This is why that 44 days turns into 94, then 100 days. So if I'm going too fast, stop me, but it's a lot of information I'm trying to slide through to get it to you before you leave, and I want to get your questions, the real questions that you have. Grants.gov, here's the website information for grants.gov at the bottom. And just in case Andrew doesn't give you a copy of this, yes, please take pictures. So when you see this AOR, this is that person that you're going to put into the system for you. And make sure that person is that follow-up person, that dedicated person who's going to keep your information updated in grants.gov. This is all what we use. I got a grants lawyer. He's the technical person that talks to me all the time. When I'm putting something on the street, I'm making sure I'm updated with everything. everything goes to grant.gov. They keep the policies updated. So we do not go anywhere around this. Everything has to go through a system. Every federal dollars go through a portal system. We're checking SAMS.gov, we're checking grants.gov, FESBIZ, FedConnect, all of that stuff. And in the solicitations that we send out, we're gonna tell you, don't send me an email. If I tell you it's FedConnect, send it through FedConnect. Do not send me an email with your proposal. I cannot accept it because I am providing you an unfair advantage by reading and looking at it myself. I want my whole team of individuals looking at it and then briefing me later. I told you about FedConnect. How many of you heard about FedConnect? Look at FedConnect for every federal opportunity from every federal entity. This is a good source. A lot of times people have gotten away from it because they're talking to folks, but there are things that are going on FedConnect every day, right? At the last minute emergency. I was the only intelligence contracting officer at the Department of Energy for 7 years. And a lot of times we have to go on this classified web to put it out, so it's only in the classified community. So what we would do on FedConnect is just give you a unique identifier number and how to find us, right? Because you won't find the information because it's classified. I couldn't put it there. While I'm on that, let me tell you something. If you guys don't have clearances in your companies, get it. You can get a contract just by having someone that has a clearance in your company. Did you know that? No. That's key.
And when you say clearance, you're talking security clearance?
Security, depending on what different levels, but like a TS, different levels. Q clearance is unique identifier to the Department of Energy. We are the only agency that has a Q clearance. And I won't go into detail, but it's equivalent to what you call the top secret. And then we go different levels beyond that as well. But it's key to get that. I did have a company that we made an offer to, and I had to rescind the offer because no one in his office, on his team, in his company, had a clearance. That is so sad, right? But there was another tool in my belt that I had. So because I was really ready to make this award, I wanted to know, did he have any subs? Here goes the word again, or any company that he knows of to have it. So guess what he did? He made that sub the prime. Right? He got the contract. It's a win-win situation. I told you, there's information you'll get here that you would never hear again on one-on-one. So you get it?
Got it.
That's good, that's
So
good.
quick question, so you got Q clearance and just throw out two other ones, just backfill.
Well, sometimes you have limited access or BAO clearances. You have an SCI, that's above a TS. That's a secret compartmentalized clearance. That's one of the highest clearance that you can have, but that comes after your TS. This guy asked me 3 questions, and so it's only fair for me to go back to this young lady and at least get her question that she had. But that's great, that's good.
Actually, I was gonna ask you, just for the translation services company, right?
Yes.
Did they just translate documents for you, or did they come to a session and then be a translator?
Both.
Okay.
They did both. That's good, because I paid them separately.
Right, I was about to, because
It's 2 separate things. Yeah, I thought they was
Yeah.
price gouging me, and then they broke down, and it was like, no, you need somebody to speak it,
I was like-
and not just on the paper where they're saying it, so they're printing digitally, and they're speaking as well. And so, when she said, I said $100,000, I'm in the wrong business, just do this for 2 hours, right?
Is that translator, like when they,
Yeah.
that's extremely.
It is very difficult what she explained to me. And then I thought, oh, she's price gouging me, then she broke it down to me. So for you asking that question, that's like my 3rd confirmation that I was doing the right thing. So look, this is a forward cover page. I'm just showing you what it looks like so when you start seeing things, right? And this is actually from the Office of Clean Energy. This is real, right? That's our office when we talk about what we're doing at DOE. And so I just kind of like snapshot a picture of something where it's broken down. And you see all those dates there. This money is going to be going to them for a long time. My team of staff put it together. A lot of times we do like contracts for at least 3 to 5 years. Now we went to 7 and 10 because things are evolving. We can put things in that we can project. we can actually put into contract things that are unforeseen because we want to build it out to make sense, right? And think about those things that you haven't told us about your company and what you can do. The government's thinking ahead of what may happen. You know, administration changes. We do understand the plan if the administration changes. When you talk about 14 months, we have a short time, like Shalea said, on a lot of things that we're currently doing to make dents right now. So there is really not a lot of time. You're gonna see things coming out from every federal agency. I'm here to talk about DOE. Check us out. We have a lot of things that we're trying to obligate. I tell you, my team, I'm the chief of the acquisition. I'm telling you, I can picture it all that I have to do. And a lot of things I have to obligate before the end of the fiscal year. So I don't even have a lot of time to be here. When I leave for the day, I head down to Corpus Christi. And then I'm in Detroit, right? And then I'm back in Texas. And then I have to go down to New Orleans because we gotta do speaking there in New Orleans. And then, so we gotta get people the information so they can help us and be readily available to apply for it when we put it out there.
Nicole, I'm 2 down on 1.
That's good.
With the companies that you work with, do they have to have, is it a corporation, LLC, or like, do you guys have you don't care? I was just curious.
No, the only thing we're looking at is capabilities.
Okay.
When we have a requirement, can you do it? NIAX code. So these are your identifier, what you can do. The more, the merrier, you know. Some people go from cleaning to staffing. I'm serious. And it works. It works. We're not just selling electric cars, solar. We do all kinds of things, guys. All kinds of things. So anybody here heard of CBOSS? CBOSS. Sorry. Oh yeah, CBOSS. I did hear that too. So CBOSS, right? That's an IT. We gave it the name because it's cyber. It's a cyber contract. So and it's IT in it. So I was a CEO starting out on that and was a part of, I think at $1 billion we awarded to a company called Accenture.
That's not competitive.
Accenture has so many subs under there on the CBOSS contract. I was a part of, listen, we did $1 billion contract, part 8. That is unheard of, by the way. Google it later when you got some time. That's unheard of. Typically you do part 15. It takes you forever to do a part 15. Part 8. You know what a part 8 means? We make an award to a competitive company with without discussions. $1 billion. No discussion. You can't ask me nothing. Right? Nothing. I couldn't believe we pulled it off, but the Department of Energy did. When you get some time, look at the CBOSS contract. It's an agency-wide vehicle at DOE, $1 billion. Typically, you go into these major big contracts, you have discussions, you ask questions, you come in and you explain. 0. They couldn't ask me nothing. They could ask me a question because of part 8, you can ask a question, but you can't go into discussions. And I can tell you what this question has to be, yes or no. When people tell you in a part 8, you can only answer yes or no. You can't say, oh, but if I called you and I say you're competitive on this $1 billion contract, and my team or myself calls you and say, hey, was the first year really $300 million? You can only say yes or no. If you made a mistake, I want you to listen to this really good. If you made a mistake and transpose your numbers, and you're in a competitive environment, and that base year was supposed to be $100 million, as opposed to $300 million, you lose, because all you can tell me is yes or no. Because when you tell me no, out, right? Or yes, you lose. You can't explain to me, oh my goodness, I just hired this bum person last week and I told them they keep making mistakes and I told them to do better and to make sure to do checks and balances. You lose, right? So I just kind of wanted to let you to know that as well. Now don't go out here telling anybody that I talked about Accenture or your company. This is a fact that the Department of Energy awarded $1 billion from an IT contract, cyber IT contract to a company that is doing a great job for the Department of Energy. Financial assistance. We know the difference between the different types of financial assistance. Grants, corporate agreement. Someone gives you a grant, Shalea mentioned it earlier, that's some dollars out there. We're kind of supporting your efforts that you said. There's money out there, we want you to do something, we give it to you, right? There's money out there, work to be done. Under this grant, we're going to give you the dollars to do it. And we're going to leave you alone. and hope that you do exactly what you said you were gonna do with taxpayers' dollars. Cooperative agreement, a little bit different, right? Substantial involvement. I need to guarantee your success, right? We need to do site visits to make sure things are going well. What can we do to amplify your success, right? How do we continue what you're doing? I'm opening this new mentoring company, and I'm gonna have all high school students from the Chicago area come to this mentoring. This is what we put our dollars behind for cooperative agreement. And we get excited about that. Oh my goodness, how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna bring these students, right? And how do we help you be successful in doing that? We're gonna have substantial involvement in that. That's the difference into our financial assistance or grant and cooperative agreement. This is hot commodity right now. I gotta move a little bit faster. Applications, when you're successful, of course, we send you a successful letter. When we receive your application, we're gonna tell you, hey, thank you for the opportunity, this is what it's gonna look like. We're gonna let you know, and a lot of times we're gonna give you the information of your competitor. When I say the information, just what their bid was and nothing more. We're not required to do that in grants, right? When we do a competitive forward. We're not required to give you information. The Department of Energy is a little bit different. We like to tell you so you can know what to do next time. Some lessons learned to better improve your process. A lot of times my office does that for you, but it's not a requirement for us to do. So don't go out here fussing with EPA, saying, I asked you to give me some information, you told me you couldn't tell me anything. We're not required to do that. We just try to do something a little bit different at the Department of Energy to ensure that next time you will be more successful in sending in your application. Unsuccessful offerers are notified the same way through a letter. It doesn't matter which order. Sometimes I tell my unsuccessful offer first or last. It all depends on what I have time for and how many letters I need to send, right? So don't call your buddy that lost and say, I heard you won, right? I probably didn't tell them yet, but they'll thank you, right? So it's not a particular order. We do know the industry is small. We can't stop that, but I'm just letting you know it's a requirement for us to send a letter, but not in any particular order. Oh, good stuff, right? So here's how the process works for funding opportunity. So here you got the pre-award stage, right? So this is all about what I told you about before. We send all of the funding opportunity announcement out. You send your applications back in. I hire a TPO behind the scene already, which is a technical project officer. That's going to be the person on the ground with you, not a contracting officer, not one of the teams. And this person probably was not a part of the merit reviewers. That person's going to work directly with you as a successful offeror. When the award is time, we talked about the award decision based on how we made our decisions. A lot of times, you get thrown out because you missed the narrative. You didn't send your budget narrative. You didn't tell me about your company. So you don't make the cut here. And a lot of times when you're thrown out in a compliance check, that's not something we come and tell you about, right? We just let you know there is going to be a compliance check prior to you sending it. So after that, the implementation starts. You do go through the process, and then it's a reporting requirement within whatever that is within your actual award, right? If it's monthly, quarterly, how do you send your invoices? All of those things are going to be in there. And it's really nice to send your invoices just like you said you were going to do through the application process, so the contracting officer don't have to decline your invoice when it comes in. I'm a big stickler behind that. I tell my cores and my TPOs, if the invoices don't make sense, decline it, send it back, right? We gotta know what we're paying for and how we're paying for it. We're gonna make sure our dollars are being dispersed accurately. Do not go out and buy a 18-wheeler truck to deliver tires when that's not in your, I saw the young lady laughing at the back, it's happened. True story, I'm telling you, okay? Because I read invoices. If I'm not reading, when I say I have a staff of people that's looking at the invoices, and I ensure that they do. Throughout the reporting process, so throughout the contract, you have different budget periods. 1 year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many periods we put in there. A lot of times we could do a no-cost extension. A lot of that happened with COVID, which was a force majeure for all of us. So everything changed, everything was different. So I awarded like 10 awards in 2020. Do you think I knew that COVID was about to happen? Heck no. So no one moved for about a year and a half. So what do you think I did for those individuals? I gave them more time to meet the needs of the requirement and extended it to make sure. That's only fair. Some people wasn't successful in that because some people just stopped working throughout COVID. They were building this organization that this company gave them money to do, and so they didn't get extended. But if you kept moving, understanding there are things that were going to happen, like different universities, students weren't going to school anymore. So how do we do a bridge high school program when the students weren't attending school? We extended those things. And because we extended it, COVID allowed us the opportunity, those companies, to even be more creative and innovative. So we're adding even more to the awards. And we can do that as well. As long as the narrative is there, the budget supports it. And it's about amplifying, which our director, the Honorable Shalonda Baker, that's all she says. How do we amplify stuff that we put out? She doesn't want us to stay in one stead. I don't care that you tell me you can bring 10 students to your program. How do you get to 50? You tell me how you get to 50, and I'll show you the dollars to make sure you get to 50, or 100, or 200, right? So make sure we keep that in mind. And then we go through the closeout process after that time. This just tells you a little bit about a contracting officer. We talked about that earlier. Who binds the government? Same thing on the grants and financial assistance side, cooperative agreement. You have contracting officer. Instead of cores, you have TPO, project managers, but they're still technical experts in the field that work on the ground with you. It's just that in the contracting world, you'll hear about a core, and in the financial assistance world, which is cooperative agreements and grants, you will hear about TPO, the technical project manager. You get it?
Got it.
Good. All right, so guess what? That's it. Woo! Yes. I'm excited about that. So you get to ask me your questions, but before you do that, I always like to tell people, I step behind the podium when I'm talking, because what you're looking at is an individual just like you, right? Started out just like you, but this is the finished product, right? I do great things for great people, underserved, disadvantaged communities. I'm so excited now talking about DEIA, diversity in every business, every organization. That's me, right? So we're doing outreach. So I walk in and I said, okay, I'm average, just like everyone else. But the difference is that I have a seat at the table. Yes. That's where the real difference happens. So everyone on our team, I started in this office back in August. I've been with the Department of Energy as an unlimited contracting officer for over 15 years. But when I started in this office, they had 37 employees. Take a guess how many we have now since August.
2,000.
Almost. We went from 37 to 100 people over in August of employees. Big time what we're doing. I'm telling you, that is unheard of in the federal government. And it's still growing. Our budget has tripled. So you're able to do that. You're able to hire people. But the key is hire the right people. The people that has a compassion. If you take compassion out of what you do, even in all of your businesses, you lose. All right? It's not by any stretch of the imagination that this $97 billion, that 40% for the Justice 40% of the benefits has to go back in underserved and disadvantaged communities. So because they don't have a seat at the table, we're coming to them. I've never traveled so much, right? Because I gotta tell people how to get there. I have a 16-year-old daughter, she has prom on Friday. How I'm gonna make it there? I don't know, but I will be there. How am I gonna make it back there to make sure she gets dressed? I will be there, right? But before that, I had to come out here and every other city and state that I'm going in between times to make sure you hear it directly from the individuals that's doing the job. And I sat on your side with my own company, and they were not telling me the right things. They were sending me to a portal where I never got responses. I was talking to people that had no intentions, right? So that's why we're here. I was so excited about coming here, even though I didn't know how I was going to get the time to do it. So we are so excited about coming here. The Department of Energy is doing great things. It is no time like the present to be a part. And if I can take the time, and Shalea, and everyone else that you speak today, you can take the extra time to put into yourself, because that's what we're pointing to you. And I say, if you don't think I'm telling the truth, try it. I'm gonna give out some business cards before I leave today. Reach out to me. If you have a question, you must reach out to me. And guess what? If you don't hear directly from me, I got some highly qualified people that work for me. And they look like all of us in this room. My team is so diverse. I love a meeting. I just walk around in a meeting and just look at people, right? I do, because it's so diverse, and I love it because it wasn't always that way. So I'm excited about that, and I will take questions at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just in terms of the applications that you see, large agencies, small agencies, what are the biggest pitfalls you see in people not being successful, and how would you say that they should mitigate against that? Of course, you need to read the follow-up, of course, you need to follow the instructions, but are there some things that you're finding people are not getting in terms of submitting their applications?
Yes, one of the biggest thing is, and I gotta bring this up a little bit. Matter of fact, let's see. They gonna kill me because I don't know how to work none of this stuff. I'm gonna take it off because I can't hear myself. I don't think. Oh, there we go. The biggest thing is not telling their story. Narrative is weak. If I'm being honest, if you think that we don't have the expertise, the merit reviewers are people like you in industry. We just ensure that there's no conflicts of interest, right? So I'm talking to people, if I'm doing, if we're gonna release a fall, we talk about electric cars, do you really think they got me on the panel? No, right? I'm just the one overseeing it. I'm making sure we have the expertise. I'm the contracts person. I'm the person that's gonna put it together. I'm gonna make sure it makes sense. I'm gonna make sure all the documents are there. I'm gonna make sure nothing gets, well, it might get requested for a stay of award. I've had several companies that felt, hey, I didn't get it, so they file a request for the FOA request for more information. I don't care, because I'm going to do the due diligence and I'm going to make sure I'm fair in the process. So as long as I can answer the mail and justify what we're doing, I do it all the time. They have never, in my contracting world, no one's ever been successful when they filed a stay of award under my shop, because I tell them how horrible they are in the beginning. But I tell you for you, right? If you send me an application and you want to know, or if you're in the contract world, if you want to debrief, I'll tell you. I'm like, how do you misspell your own company's name, right? But you want me to spend 3 hours and read the rest of this application. I tell people. Right? So that's why I want you to checks and balances and telling your own story in the narrative. That's a lot what we see. Yes?
Prior to submitting the application, is your team open to small businesses reaching out and maybe just kind of walking through each of the components so there's proper preparation?
You asked me that in front of all my friends. No. But we do have a question and answer segment. We do allow you to submit questions. So when you submit a question, let's just say we have 100 applications. There's a question and answer segment. So when you ask your question, we send it to everybody. So everyone who didn't ask the question could hear what our response is. And then you get to hear other questions that we have as well too. So we don't have a private session for the company to come directly to us because it provides appearance of an unfair advantage, but we do have a question and an answer segment that we respond to. Yes, sir, here. And then we'll go to you.
Sure. How does an agency get on the list for the RFIs? Is it through SAM.gov or?
I'm gonna give you this card.
Okay.
That's one of the way that people look and pull, but every agency has a portal or an individual that collects this stuff from small businesses or large businesses, and we put it in a portal. And this is what we go to when we have those emergency one-offs. So if you sent me your proposal or your capabilities, what I typically do, I may not respond to you, but I forward it to our POC point of contact. And they have to keep that list updated and provide it to every CO in the building. So we have our program officers that comes to us with a requirement. That's where we start. And we say, hey, we have to make something quick or direct award to a company. We do a lot of sole source awards sometimes because certain things just happen that we don't have a lot of time to run a competition. A competition can take anywhere from 12 to 18 months, sometimes years, right? So a lot of times we don't have that. I'm gonna go to the gentleman in front of you and then we'll come to you. Yes, sir. No, the gentleman behind you. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, that was my first question. My second one is, do you find that organizations that hire like grant consultants or whatever have a higher non-rejection rate than others to get their proposals in front of you or their responses to your request for information or for an award?
No, I don't think so at all. And I can only tell you because I literally have been receiving them for over 15 years, right? So, I was telling Shalay, I was sitting there like, you better not say things that you're not supposed to say, right? But now I'm sitting there thinking, should I say this? Should I? So we have all kinds of companies, right? Booz Allen, Northrop Grumman, you name it, small companies. We do it all the time. Literally, if you went to the president of Booz Allen, and if anybody you work at Booz Allen, your president of the company knows my name, right? Because we deal with all of them, from big to small. And I've personally spoken to them. And we do kickoff meetings every time we make awards, so we get to know individuals. I know for my office, that's a key. I don't want you to come into the Department of Energy and be unsuccessful. So what I do is I have a kickoff meeting. That might be the first time and last time that you see me, but you will see me first. I make it a business where I point to come into all kickoff meetings from a successful award with my staff. I will introduce you to the CEO that will be on the contract. I will introduce you to the core or the TPO, and then I'm out of the way. But I just want to make sure that you understand everyone's role before I'm out of sight. Because it's a key thing. It's a creative thing that we do at Department of Energy. We make sure that you know your success is our success. And we also want you to know that it's a relationship. You don't get to come in Department of Energy and think you're in it alone. We have work, we have a need, and I want to make sure you meet our needs. So I want to make sure that that understanding is there at the kickoff meeting. So I try my best to come into those things, so it doesn't matter to answer your question, where you sit in the fold of business, everyone gets the same fair opportunity. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna stand up because I'm in the back. So mine is similar, but for companies who are in the startup era, their capabilities may not be as large as other companies. For example, when you did that one-off emergency with the translator, so would it be more beneficial for those startup companies to join, to look for cooperative agreements as far as partnerships, or when writing that thorough capability list, can I speak from like what I could accomplish with more resources, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think you can do that, but you want to know the best way? I'm giving you guys all these secrets, and if you repeat it, I will deny it. You recording this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Turn it off real quick.
I know, right?
I've been instructed not to do that. I've been instructed not to do that.
No worries. So I'll tell you the best thing to do is to partner and to talk to someone that's already doing business in the federal government, wherever it is, preferably Department of Energy. But that's the best way for you to build your portfolio, your contract. Get onto someone else's contract vehicle where it allows you to use their past performance. You know you can do that, right? Your girlfriend has a company doing the same thing that you're doing, young lady right here. And it's the same type of business and you're at the startup company. What are you gonna do? Girl, if you don't put me on one of them tasks, and so I can utilize this vehicle that you're using for past performance, that's what I'm gonna use. You use their past performance to tell us about what you can do, because I know you're partnering with someone that's already doing business with the government or understanding how to deliver and what needs to be delivered. So it's nothing wrong with you applying for those things, but if I'm completely honest with you, a lot of times past performance is key. You'll see in a lot of the solicitation that we put on the street, you want to give 3-4 years of past performance experience, and a lot of times we ask you to fill out a questionnaire, tell us about the company that we can talk to about your past performance. So if you're utilizing or partnering with someone, that's the quickest, smartest, and most efficient way to do business with the federal government. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we do. So the Office of OSDBU, our small business offices, I wish you all can be in New Orleans. It's a small business conference in July 9th through the 12th. It's nothing but information is going to be there. They're going to tell you about the different goals from different agencies. We have a report card. We have to meet certain goals for every single woman-owned, HUD, veteran-owned business? Absolutely, we do. So the Department of Energy, just like every other department, we have to report this to OMB, Congress, on a 6-month basis. I'm a part of those meetings, and the Department of Energy is killing in their goals. I can tell you that. We are doing very well. We're trying to get a little bit better with our hub zone, and that's always been a little issue for us, but we're trying our best to get there, but we're watching it, and we've been charged by our heads of our organization to ensure we meet those goals, because they're checking it, and we get dinged when we don't, so we're working really hard to do that. Thank you. This lady, and then I'll get this gentleman in the middle.
Actually, he can go, he was up earlier.
Oh, I didn't see you.
So I
See
want to
you.
piggyback on what she asked. Does that give you precedence, being a minority or woman-owned business in certain contracts? You guys have like a priority list or a certain pile that will go to?
Let me see if I can pull my Condoleezza Rice response. Okay, so let me just say, I'll preference that with no, but let me caveat that. It is really good for us to be able to show that we're not making it difficult for individuals in those socioeconomic areas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Without me going into detail, right? It's really key for us to be able to do that. We look to do that because those, remember, we talked about sometimes those are not the individuals, the company, institution, industry that's really at the table that's getting the big bids right offhand. So we try to make sure we engage with them so we're providing that fair opportunity across the board. So no, but with the caveat that we try our really best to make sure we involve those individuals and meet those social economical goals.
Okay, so then if you have a certificate, so then you encourage those minority certifications to be able to quickly identify those companies.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the other question was this PhD thing, like
Sure.
yeah, I'm curious. Where is that applicable? Is that still okay? I was a little.
No. So I'm working on my PhD. I wanted to stop like 3 times, but that has nothing to do with anything, right? I think Shalea was talking more, and I told her this too. I said, you gonna make me work hard at this breakout session with that, right? Because that's only on the part of researchers, right? We do have a lot of researchers in the area of economic justice. Why? Because that's the new thing, that's the president mandate, right? So Justice 40, energy justice, that's the new thing we're making sure. And with this 40% benefits of those dollars going back into underserved and disadvantaged communities. So we're making sure, how do we research things that we need? We're talking about carbon, hydrogen, carbon capture, hydrogen, that's something totally different. But we are looking for those individuals on that level of research only. But it has nothing to do. So I don't think I've ever, for you providing a response to the government, your educational background was never important. I've done this for over 15 years, not as a $2 million contracting officer, not as a $1 billion contracting officer, but an unlimited warranted contracting officer. Dollars are extensive. Now, what you will do, what you need to do is when you're hiring individuals that's going to be the SME, that's going to be delivering the tasks that we need, they need to have the level of expertise.
That's what I thought you meant in terms of experience.
Yes.
But not necessarily education.
No, not necessarily a PhD. So if I quit, don't tell my university, because when you quit, all the advisors call you and make sure you don't quit. So they're up all times of night making say, oh, you only got a year left. Come on, you can do this. Write it, right? So don't tell them what I said, but that is not the requirement. It's the experience, that you have the right people in the right places. There's so many, I have so many IT people that work in my division for the CBOS staff. All they have is certification, but they're getting paid mega bucks, right, for the certification, so not PhD. I hope I cleared that up for everybody in the room and it makes sense. Yes, sir.
So going back to your invoicing, once the contracts or whatever are awarded, what's the typical runway time from submitting invoice, as long as everything is there, to when invoices are paid? You typically hear government sometimes slow to pay invoices and things. So not to be left hanging, but how long does it take for that money to come?
Outside of like that translator, which is like the immediate plug-in, right? Like the standard.
So that goes back to people, right? If we're being honest. I can pay an invoice the same day. Not me, but my staff who's in fast. So the goal is the individual that leads that team, as you're communicating with your TPO and the individuals at the company, tell them, right? The government wants to hear. You don't get dinged for saying, we submitted our invoice 2 months ago and we still haven't been paid. And we get penalized, by the way. My staff knows if I get an invoice, a late fee, somebody gonna be frying fish, I would say, on the corner of Independence and 9th Street is what I tell them. And they laugh. But I mean it, because you're waiting to get paid and I'm getting charged a fee. And that's taxpayers' dollars, and I don't play about taxpayers' dollars. So I'll go back to individuals. To answer your question, I give you 30 days to submit your invoice typically. If you ask me for an extension, I may or may not provide that extension based on what your reasoning is. But once you get an invoice, I ask my staff to go in 2 weeks or less to pay the invoice. If it goes beyond 2 weeks, it's because it's discrepancies. And they would either pay half of it, deny the other half, but I want them to pay something. Pay the part that makes sense, don't pay the part that doesn't make sense. So we'll come back to you and have you update the invoices. So it's based on the individual and the company, the agency, but as a taxpayer and as a person that's providing to the government, you should ask them to pay the invoices and what's going on with the invoice. When you get on those meetings, if you don't, they won't know. And a lot of times, it's not the managers. I don't know if you don't tell me until I run a report, right? So a lot of times they don't know, so ask. And then when you ask, those managers can say, what, did I pay that invoice on time? Right? Because a lot of times we don't know. But technically it can be paid the same day. But I think it's reasonable to give a company at least 2 weeks to respond to your invoice. Yes, ma'am.
I have a brother who is about to graduate as a marine biologist, and I told him I was coming to this conference.
Okay,
And,
congratulations.
he wants to know, thank you, what sector of the EPA is showing the most growth? He's looking in the research field, and he wants to know which one is most valuable to invest his time in.
Well, I'm Department of Energy. I don't know which areas, but I will kind of lead on Deborah that spoke earlier this morning from EPA, saying that water is like the new up and coming. It's almost like, and I would tell him, just like as a developer, you don't want to know what's going on five years from now. You want to get a part of those things 20 years down the line. That's going to be big and up and coming because people are still at the table discussing. But I would kind of take her lead on that and say that's the new way to kind of go in and look and kind of put those efforts behind because that's going to be next on it. Energy justice, Justice 40 was now, that's slowly going away. So we're really trying to make a huge dent. I want you to hear me. We're really trying to make a huge dent in the next 14 months so it can be sustained. And if it isn't, it's so easy to be wiped off the map, but it's good things happening right now. And I think all of you in this room should be a part of it. No time like the present to be a part of it. We got 14 months. Get to working, get to applying, ask the questions, call us. I promise you, I'm gonna give out these cards. You send me an email, you're gonna be really surprised when I have someone else reach out to you from my office to get back to you and to ensure that you're in touch with the right people and you're providing these capability statements to the right individual that's not just gonna sit down and throw you in a portal. Because they do exist. But we're here today, we came to you, so you know who to send it to, right? And then I'll help you get to the right individuals. You have my word on that. Yes, ma'am.
Who's sending out the deck? The slides?
Andrew.
Andrew.
He's from
Oh, Andrew, okay.
I'm sorry, yes, Andrew Klaus.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to piggyback on that question as well, which what's the next big thing, right? And like you mentioned, the Department of Energy is constantly evolving, and we're educating you on certain things that you guys may not be thinking about, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you about industrial hemp when it comes to the green and clean energy, biodegradable and all that good stuff. Is that something that you've seen on the rise as well with researching as well as far as how we can start switching some of the gas or oil to looking at industrial hemp?
Absolutely. So at the Department of Energy, has anyone heard of the LPO program? LPO is the Loan Program Office. I think it's like $190 billion that they have. Yes, sir. You know, if you even send me an email, I will get you in contact with the Loan Program Office. Absolutely. But I can tell you the loan program started young lady who works for me, she was like the secretary that helped put it together, Catherine Linder. And when that program started back in, please don't quote me, I hate that camera running because these dates, I'm gonna give you an estimate. Because I was there at the Department of Energy when it happened, and I'm thinking it was 2008, 9 in that area when we first started. Even back then we were turning trash into energy, right? It's evolved so much. They're doing everything, and that's the place for you to start when the industrial home is with the Loan Program Office. I don't know about any other agency, but Department of Energy, that's a good place for you. Yes, ma'am.
So a little bit earlier you discussed that certifications have equal weight perhaps to the qualifications of the team that might be applying for specific capabilities. Can you talk to us about maybe some of the certifications we should be thinking about or researching to really help elevate our ability to apply a little bit more extensively for some of these opportunities?
So it evolved so much, right? So if this was 3 years ago, I would say, oh, make sure they train in cyber security. I don't know if you guys remember, cyber was huge, right? Kind of slowly, it's still there, but it's slowly kind of going away. Then prior to cyber, it was IT, infrastructure, FATARA, huge. It's still available, but it's still around, but it was huge for like past 2 years. So I would have said energy justice, but I can tell you we got 14 months to make energy justice, right? So it's kind of like evolving. I can tell you, the young lady mentioned it earlier, I would get certified, but it depends on your requirement. Let me just tell you what I think is gonna be good. I think electricity, water, solar, that's what we're going towards. Everyone's putting a lot of efforts behind those things. But it depends on your requirement. A lot of times we're gonna tell you what you need in the requirement. And I know, so I think it's great to have staffing agency or have people readily available to see what's coming out there. And if it's a competitive, you got 12 months to 18 months sometimes. So it depends. And the requirement typically when I put on the street, I'll tell you if I'm doing something as it relates to electrical cars, I'll tell you that we need someone with at least 5 to 10 years experience, right? And that doesn't require certification. It's the experience. We hope they have certification, but I'm just saying, depends on what is in that requirement makes sense for us. 10 years of experience that requires certification on the job, working, training, but electricity is about to be huge because it connects to so many things. If we make a dent, like I do plan, that the entire country is trying to do as it relates to energy justice, that's where I would definitely do a lot of the research and put a lot of dollars behind. Because we're gonna be looking to ensure that all of us in this room, people that look like all of us in this room, has an opportunity, to have the same advantages as anyone else. I'll tell you really quickly before I leave, the Honorable Shalonda Baker, anybody heard of her? Listen, if you do nothing tonight, go and look her up. Her name is Shalonda Baker, the Honorable Shalonda Baker, who was appointed for Energy Justice. She wrote an Energy Justice book. She was appointed by the president to lead our organization. If you heard her speak, it is the most electrifying thing, but not just speaking. She brings so much truth and reality to what's going on today and how you can be a part of it. She shared this photo when I first met her. I just met her in August, and when you read her book and just her life story, it's just amazing how she grew up. So she shared this photo. She did a presentation. Anybody remember the blackout in Texas?
Oh, I lived through it.
You lived through it. So listen at this story that I'm about to tell you, quick, 1 minute or less. She showed a picture that was taken by a photographer, a journalist, that was just an average Joe like you and I. And what that journalist captured, it brings a chill to me every time I say it or hear it. It really wasn't a real blackout, right? The blackout was in the underserved, disadvantaged community, because what the photographer did at night at this blackout, took a photo, and it was a glimpse of light in the photo. And the glimpse of light, when the researchers went to look, it was an area where the money was. Not the people that were dying for not heating their homes. Not the people that didn't have power to even do that, electricity. When you hear that story, if it doesn't make you want to do your part, I don't know what will. And it excites me every single time to know that people want us to believe that it was a blackout, but it truly wasn't a blackout. Okay? So sometimes she tells it, she talks about it. She grew up in Texas, by the way. Her dad worked at one of those plants where it's the most horrific plant. I can't remember the name of it, but it's called the cancer area. There, her dad, who's no longer with us, worked there. So when you read about her and when you know your history and you understand the fight as it relates to energy justice and the research and people, that we need people just like you in that sector as well, it will make you have a different look on things and make you want to work harder and be serious about what you're doing, whatever that is. Whatever your capability is, be great. If you got a janitorial service in here, you better be the best janitorial service there is. That's how I was taught. I don't care what you're doing, you be the best in it at what you're doing. I started from absolute bottom. When they hired me in the federal government, I worked at a nonprofit organization really quickly, all nonprofit organizations. I was a director of Big Brothers Big Sisters, most rewarding job I ever had. But I cried every night because I could not take all those kids home that were at risk, right? Had all these degrees, people wanted me to come and work for their organization, but that was the most rewarding thing. But then my husband said, you can't pay the bills, right? So how do you become a part of something that makes a difference? I was always that person, and we should always be compassionate about everything that we do, regardless of what it is. If it's IT, be the best IT specialist. If you're gonna build a solar panel, make sure, like the University of Elizabeth City that I just went to visit. I went down to Elizabeth City, y'all. They are doing great things. Look, I'm not from North Carolina, but I tell you, if you know anybody from North Carolina, send your kids to North Carolina Elizabeth City University. Aviation program, $500 tuition a year, a semester, because grant money are providing kids to go to school. A sustainability program, the drone program. I got excited about it when I went through see what they were doing in Elizabeth City. They're taking the drones are checking the solar panels for cracks. They are doing great things at some of these HBCUs, Texas Southern University. I was just there. Dr. Bullard, they call him the father of energy justice. Look him up. Dr. Bullard, B-U-L-L-A-R-D. If you ever have an opportunity to go see him speak, he's been doing energy justice research for over 4 decades. If you ever have an opportunity to hear him speak, you would think you have accomplished. I was sitting talking to him, I'm like, I'm really talking to, you don't compare anybody to the great Dr. Martin Luther King. But this man was there. So if you get an opportunity, I'm just dropping hints to you guys, just because I'm all about making a difference. And if you don't have, and I'll end my speech by saying to you, if you don't have an internal compass for what you do, get out of it. If you don't have an internal compass, get out of it. Because it doesn't matter who gives you the opportunity, it won't last. But if you have an internal compass, it goes very far. And it wouldn't stop with you. You would help other individuals to become a part of involved in what you're doing to continue the great work. If there's no other question, thank you. That ends my session. Thank you very much. And I do have business cards for anyone that wants it.